The morning routine that neuroscientists actually recommend, most people do it wrong. Most people believe their morning routine is helping them. It is not. A 2022 study published in the journal Nature Human Behavior found that the habits people perform in the first 60 minutes after waking have a stronger influence on cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and decision-making quality for the rest of the day than any other single time block. 60 minutes. And yet a 2023 Gallup survey found that 67% of Americans check their phone within 5 minutes of waking up. But here's the thing, that phone check is not just a harmless habit. According to neuroscientists at the University of California, it immediately floods the brain with cortisol, fragments attention before it is fully formed, and sets a reactive rather than intentional pattern for the entire day. Today I am breaking down exactly what the neuroscience actually recommends and why most people are doing the opposite without knowing it. The most widely cited morning advice is to wake up early, 5 a.m., 4:30. The earlier the better. Productivity culture has turned early rising into a virtue signal, and the internet is full of content promising that a 5 a.m. alarm will transform your output, your focus, and your finances. But here is what that advice leaves out entirely. A 2019 study by the University of Birmingham found that forcing an early wake time on a person whose chronotype, their biological sleep timing, does not match that schedule produces the cognitive equivalent of mild jet lag. The researchers called this social jet lag, and they found it impairs memory consolidation, reduces prefrontal cortex activity, and increases cortisol production throughout the day. The anchor number of 5 a.m. is not the goal. Waking at the right time for your specific biology and what you do in the time after waking is what the neuroscience actually recommends. And those two things are very different from what most morning routine content teaches. The first thing neuroscientists consistently identify as damaging in the morning is the one most people do first. Checking a phone, email, social media, news. The brain in the first 20 to 30 minutes after waking is in a neurological state called the hypnopompic state, the transitional window between sleep and full waking consciousness. The brain is in a highly suggestible, high theta brainwave state. This is the state in which the brain is most receptive to suggestion, most capable of creative insight, and most vulnerable to anxiety induction. Introducing a stream of notifications, social comparisons, or news alerts into this window does not just distract the brain, it literally programs the emotional tone of the day before the prefrontal cortex has fully come online to filter and contextualize what it is receiving. Think about someone like Claire. She is 31, ambitious, considers herself a productive person. Her alarm goes off at 6:45. Within 90 seconds, she has opened Instagram, seen a post from a colleague announcing a promotion, checked her email and found 3 requests waiting for her response, and glanced at a news alert about something alarming. By 7 a.m. she is anxious, reactive, and already in a deficit mindset before she has eaten, before she has moved, before she has had a single thought that originated from inside her own mind. Her morning did not set her up, it ambushed her. And that ambush, repeated daily, accumulates into a chronic low-grade state of cognitive overload that feels like a personality trait rather than a fixable morning problem. The first thing neuroscientists recommend instead is deceptively simple. Do not reach for the phone for the first 30 minutes after waking. This single change, 30 minutes of what researchers at Harvard Medical School have called protected waking time, has been shown to reduce morning cortisol spikes by up to 15%, improve working memory performance during the subsequent 2 hours, and increase the quality of creative and strategic thinking across the day. The mechanism is straightforward. The hypnopompic state is a neurological resource. Used intentionally, it produces clarity. Hijacked by external stimulus, it produces anxiety. The choice of which one happens is made in the first 30 seconds after the alarm goes off, and most people have made that choice unconsciously. by placing their phone on the nightstand. The second thing the neuroscience identifies as critical is light exposure, specifically natural light reaching the eyes within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking. This is not wellness advice. It is circadian biology. According to research by Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford University's Neuroscience Laboratory, exposure to natural light in the morning triggers a precise hormonal cascade. Cortisol peaks appropriately and early, which produces alertness and motivation, and simultaneously sets a timer for the release of melatonin approximately 14 to 16 hours later, which produces quality sleep at night. Without that morning light signal, the cortisol peak occurs randomly, and the melatonin timer is not properly set, producing both worse daytime alertness and worse sleep quality the following night. The daily compounding effect of poor morning light exposure is a body clock that gradually drifts out of alignment, producing the kind of persistent fatigue and difficulty waking that most people attribute to needing more sleep, when the actual issue is needing better timed light. 2 to 10 minutes of outdoor natural light within the first hour of waking, cloudy days included, because the relevant light frequencies penetrate cloud cover, is the single highest return biological input most people are currently missing from their morning. It costs nothing. It takes less time than making coffee. And the neuroscience behind it is among the most robust in the field of chronobiology. The third element neuroscientists identify, and the one most ignored by mainstream productivity content, is movement. Not intense exercise necessarily, though that has its own benefits. Specifically, low-intensity movement within the first hour of waking. A 2021 meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine reviewed 76 studies covering over 17,000 participants and found that even 10 to 20 minutes of walking in the morning produced measurable improvements in executive function, working memory, and attention that persist for up to 3 hours afterward. The mechanism involves several pathways: increased cerebral blood flow, the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor which supports neuronal connectivity, and a reduction in the amygdala's threat response activity that makes the brain less reactive and more deliberate for the hours that follow. The morning walk, the brief yoga sequence, the 10 minutes of stretching, these are not indulgences or luxuries. They are neurological investments that return more than they cost in time, measured in cognitive performance across the rest of the day. Now here is where the science gets genuinely surprising, because the fourth element is the one nobody expects to be on this list: deliberate cognitive priming. Specifically, spending 5 to 10 minutes in the morning reviewing a single goal, question, or intention before the external world introduces its agenda. Research published in the journal Psychological Science found that people who spent 5 minutes each morning writing or thinking about a specific goal they were working toward showed significantly higher levels of goal-directed behavior, better resistance to distraction, and higher rates of goal completion over a 4-week period than a control group who did not engage in the practice. The neuroscience behind this is related to what is called the reticular activating system, a network in the brainstem that acts as a filter for the enormous volume of sensory information the brain receives each day. The reticular activating system prioritizes information that is relevant to what the brain has been recently and repeatedly focused on. By deliberately priming the brain with a goal or intention in the morning, a person is essentially programming their perceptual filter to notice opportunities, information, and connections relevant to that goal throughout the day. Connections that the same person would have walked past without. Noticing if they had started their day in reactive mode. The fifth element is the one most counterintuitive to people raised on the idea that productivity requires immediate action. Stillness, specifically a period of unstructured mental quiet, whether that takes the form of meditation, breathwork, or simply sitting without input for 5 to 10 minutes in the early morning. A 2018 study at Johns Hopkins University analyzed 47 trials of mindfulness meditation and found that even a brief daily practice produced clinically significant reductions in anxiety, depression, and pain, with the morning being identified as the highest leverage time for the practice due to the brain's proximity to the sleep state and the associated elevated plasticity. The morning stillness practice is not about achieving anything. It is about not achieving anything for a specific, deliberate, time-limited period before the demands of the day begin. The brain that has been given 10 minutes of silence before the noise arrives is a fundamentally different cognitive instrument for the hours that follow than the brain that was assaulted with information from the moment it became conscious. Most people have never experienced what a genuinely protected morning feels like. Not because they cannot have one, but because they have never made the structural decision to protect it. The morning is not a luxury to be earned after the work is done. It is the foundation that determines the quality of the work itself. Here is what separates the neuroscientific morning routine from the performative one. The performative version, cold plunges at 4:30 a.m., journaling 17 categories, drinking a complicated supplement stack, is designed to be impressive. The neuroscientific version is designed to be effective. It does not require an alarm at an extreme hour. It does not require expensive equipment or elaborate ritual. It requires 5 specific decisions made consistently in the first 60 minutes after waking every single day. No phone for the first 30 minutes. Natural light within the first hour. 10 to 20 minutes of movement. 5 minutes of deliberate goal priming. And a brief period of stillness before the external world takes over. Those 5 inputs, applied consistently, produce a brain that operates at a measurably higher level for the rest of the day, not because of motivation or discipline, but because the underlying neuroscience of attention, cortisol, circadian rhythm, and neuroplasticity is being respected rather than ignored. The reason most people's morning routines do not produce these results is not that they lack discipline or motivation or intention. It is that they have been optimizing for the feeling of productivity rather than the biology of performance. Checking email feels productive. Scrolling news feels informed. Reaching for the phone feels connected. None of these produce the cognitive conditions that the brain actually needs in the morning. And the gap between what feels like a good start and what the neuroscience identifies as one is where most people's days are quietly lost before they have begun. Here is the one thing worth changing this week. Not 5 things. 1. Move your phone charger out of your bedroom tonight. Charge it in another room. Set a separate alarm clock if you need one. That single physical change removes the option of the phone check in the hypnopompic window, because the phone will not be within reach. It does not require willpower every morning. It requires one decision tonight. And the morning that follows, the first morning where the first 30 minutes belong entirely to you, will feel different enough that you will not need further convincing about what comes next. And here is the question worth sitting with after everything above. If the most important 60 minutes of your cognitive day are the 60 minutes after you wake, and if you have been spending those 60 minutes in a way that neuroscience identifies as actively working against your own performance, what would the last year have looked like if you had been spending them differently?